All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Sunday, August 6th, with a full MLB slate to jump into today. Like we always do, we're gonna go through each and every game. I'm gonna give you my lean or leans on the games, but all my final plays, those will be in the pinned comment. So keep an eye on the pinned comment if you do want to roll with my picks, or if you do want to fade me, those final plays will be in the pinned comment. Coming off of a 1-2 night. We knew we were gonna follow up a 3-0 night with it. What had to be some sort of bad night, right? All things come back down and water seeks its level, I guess. But nonetheless, a 1-2 night. We look to be a little bit better than that tonight. Mickey Moniak being the only play that we had, and it was kind of juiced at -150. That ended up hitting. But nonetheless, guys, our first game on the slate here, we're jumping into is Cleveland taking on the White Sox. White Sox, yesterday, they get the win 7-4 here. Cleveland obviously winning game 1 of this series 4-2. On the mound for Cleveland today, we're looking at Xavier Curry. The team is 1-2 in his 3 starts on the year, but his ERA is really low. He's only going to give you, what, 2-3 innings, kind of like a a hybrid opener, right? And then on the mound for the White Sox is going to be Schultens here. Same type of thing. He's not going to give you that many innings. He has pitched 4 innings at least in every start this season, keeping the earned run average low. But what I'm going to look at here is the offense discrepancy. This Cleveland team bats righties a lot better than the White Sox do, and the White Sox did get a win. I understand that, but you have to go back a while to find where they found 2 wins in a row. So give me Cleveland in a bounce back spot here. Again, you look at this from always, last 10, last 5 overall, Cleveland just bats righties better than the White Sox do. So we're looking at it from an offensive perspective, taking Cleveland on the money line at -136. I think the odds are fair. In terms of the total, 9 runs here. Game number 1 seemed like it was more like what these two teams would be pacing towards here, a 4-2 type game. I don't really think that they run it back with a 7-4, type game. In fact, 7 of the last 10 games, including yesterday, of the last 10 games that they've played against one another, 7 of those have gone under in their line. So I'm going to lean towards Cleveland and the under in this one. Yankees taking on the Astros. A good game yesterday. The Yankees ultimately prevail. They beat Verlander, but Verlander had a good game. On the mound today for the Astros is going to be Jose Urquidy going up against Carlos Rodon. I don't believe either of these pitchers are going to go out there and shove it today, so I immediately kind of look at the over 9 as my first lean. And then a secondary lean, I don't think you can pass up Houston +100 right now. These are two rival teams, played each other a number of times in the playoffs, even as of late, right? And you look at this, okay, Houston wins or loses game 1, then they win game 2, then they lose game 3. I think this is a flip-flop type series, so give me Houston on the money line for plus money. And for what it's worth, Houston does kind of rule this rivalry altogether in the last couple of years or so. So I do expect them to come out here at least flat 2-2 in a series. I can't really envision the Yankees with Rodon on the mound, who hasn't been pitching all that well as late, super erratic. I can't really picture them taking 3 of 4 against the Astros. So again, I like the over here, and I also can't really pass up that Houston +100 in terms of a lean. Keep an eye in the comment to see if we do end up rolling with that as a final play. Red Sox taking on the Blue Jays. Are the Red Sox on the brink of getting swept here? Barrios on the mound for Toronto, Bassett on the mound for Toronto, and on the mound for Red Sox is going to be Brennan Bernardino. He's actually been pitching well as late, but he only pitches to start games, right? Like a couple innings, but nonetheless, he's getting out of these innings pretty quickly, only throwing a couple innings, pitches per inning. So I like the start from Boston here today. I don't necessarily know where this goes. They have been losing games, obviously losing them late as well. So maybe this could be a first 5 money line type play for the Red Sox, but they are, heavily juiced at -130 and beyond. Actually, -144 may be the best odds out there right now over on FanDuel. So a little questionable if you do want to take this full game here. The Red Sox bullpen just has not really been pitching as of well as of late. So I do like them to kind of come out hot and at least try and step up and not get swept, right? Like they're going to defend the sweep. Came close last night, did not ultimately prevail. So give me the Red Sox here on the money line, but I might like them even more for the first 5. And then in terms of the total, we're sitting right now at 10 runs. We saw a 7-3 game, and then we saw a 5-4 game. We have 2 pitchers on the mound that sure, while they've kept the ERAs low as of late, even though Bernardino's only going to give you that 1 inning. Bassett's ERA over his last 5 is 2.20. He did have a good game as well against the Red Sox before, so even though I do think that, these pitchers are going to keep it low, I could see this one being right around that 10 mark. I think that it stays under, I guess, if I have an ultimate lean, right? But I don't really want to, play around with it here. These games, in terms of what the Red Sox have done it as of late. 6-4 against Seattle, 6-3 against Seattle, 7-3 against Toronto, 5-4 against Toronto. Like, all of these numbers are right around that 10 mark, and very similar for the last few games here for Toronto. So I'm gonna lean slightly towards the under, but I don't think that becomes a final play. If anything's gonna become final play in this game, it's most likely gonna be Red Sox money line, because I do think that they steal one here. All right, guys, before we continue, I do want to talk to you guys about the Fade Me store. I'm rocking one of the Fade Me shirts today. Make sure to check it out, fademe.store. We have tons of new products on there, tons of product, and we're adding more and more. I do have the Fade Me socks logo tee, if you will. Go check it out, guys. You can use code FADE to get 10% off. We're offering that today. Shout out to you guys that capitalized on the promo code yesterday. There's a handful of you. Shout out to you guys, but that code is over now. The 25% off is no more, so you got to go over there and use code FADE for 10% off, but it is a great way to support what we're doing here. Obviously put a lot of effort and work into each and one of these designs. It's just kind of bringing the brand to life. So if you do support it, if you are someone that's tuning in each and every day, consider picking up a t-shirt. Really good quality, kind of heavy but doesn't feel heavy. You'll have to buy to feel it for yourself, but good quality, guys. I can at least assure you that. Let's go ahead and jump into the next game here. By the way, that link will be in the pinned comment if you don't want to type fademe.store out yourselves. But we got Phillies taking on Kansas City, and obviously Phillies are going to be heavily juiced here. They finally break Kansas City's I guess record or streak yesterday. This Kansas City team was on an absolute tear. I do think the Phillies probably win this one again today, but I don't think that minus 210 and beyond odds are worth rolling the dice there. You have Taijuan Walker going up against Zach Greinke here, so I could be convinced of the Phillies on the run line. We saw yesterday, obviously 9-6 was the final, and then in terms of the total, we have a 9.5 here, 9.5 total, and I can't really consider the under. I don't want to pull the trigger on the over, but the way that these games have at least gone in this series so far, and definitely with the past couple prior to with the Phillies, we've seen a lot of high-scoring games, so I'm going to lean towards the over, but I don't know if that becomes a final play either. You could tell in my voice, a couple of these totals this morning are very sharply set. Like, there's not much of an edge looking at it being like, okay, well, what is this average, this pitcher, blah, 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 right? Like, kind of tough totals, but nonetheless, that is where we make out there. And again, it is a Phillies game for me, but can I trust them on the run line? Well, they've actually been covering the run line as of late fairly well. They've done it 5 of their last 7 games as home run line favorites there. So maybe we pull the trigger on the run line for plus 100 odds. We shall see. All right, next game up. And by the way, if you're like, what the hell happened? It means you didn't watch yesterday's video. We had a little golf accident, but that is the blemish on my face right now. It got worse from yesterday, which is weird because it happened 2 days ago, but now much like, I guess scabbed up and whatnot. But nonetheless, guys, we have Baltimore taking on the Mets, and I just can't see a world in which it makes sense to be backing the Mets right now, especially taking them against a Baltimore team that is playing good baseball. Baltimore has won 7 of their last 10 games. They've won 6 of their last 7, and they've won 3 straight, including the last 2 here against the Mets. On the mound for the Mets today is going to be Jose Quintana, who honestly has kept his ERA down over his last 5 starts. I mean, he's only had 3 this season, so maybe that's a little bit better of looking at. So in his last 3 starts here, the ERA is right around the 3 mark, which honestly ain't all that bad for what he normally is. Going up against Kyle Bradish today, who has kept that ERA severely down here, 1.6 in his last 5 years. Neither one of these guys have any stats this season against the team that we're obviously playing, but I will say that, you have a Baltimore offense that is just playing miles better, and I mean miles better than this Mets team. Baltimore, averaging almost 8 runs per game in their last 3 years. And again, 2 of those are against this Mets team. So though it is a little juicy at minus 175, you can get it at minus 172 over on FanDuel right now. I think you have to look Baltimore in this one. I don't really envision in a situation where it's like, oh, no way they could sweep the Mets. This Mets team is just getting swept over and over again. They got swept by Kansas City, albeit Kansas City was on their streak, but they're just knocking on heaven's door in terms of getting swept again here. So give me Baltimore on the money line. In terms of the total, I like the over just because, like I said, this Baltimore offense is cooking right now, and you got to let the cook. And in their last few games here, batting nearly 300 for average against lefties. Quintana pitching from the left side today. Well, he's always pitches from the left side, but today the Mets have a lefty pitcher going. Imagine that. He usually had a switch pitcher, not a switch hitter. But guys, give me Baltimore as well as the over here because I'm backing that offense. I wouldn't be surprised if you can dig in and kind of look at a Baltimore team total over 4.5 too. We want to make sure the odds are there because if they've been scoring this many runs as of late, I don't know if we're going to get good odds on that, but I do like Baltimore's team total today as well. All right, we got Cincinnati taking on Washington. Washington beaten Cincinnati 2 games in a row now, and the odds are crazy. They're plus 170-ish closing odds on the money line game 1, right? And then nearly plus 200 yesterday, and they take the win there on the mound for Cincinnati today. We don't necessarily have the starting pitcher confirmed, but who is projected here? Richardson looks like he's going to get the go for Cincinnati, and then Irvin on the mound for Washington. I just have to imagine that the Cincinnati offense doesn't stay down, right? It's 3 runs in their last 3 games here, 1 being that last game against the Cubs, and then the 2 in this game so far. At some point, this offense has to kind of go off a little bit. They're batting so poorly that you got to sense some progression coming, or opposite regression, right? So in their last 5, they're only batting 182 against righties here. That's just crazy based on batting nearly 250 against righties on the season. So I'm taking a little bit of a flyer here. I am going to look at Cincinnati. You think that you're probably getting the best odds that you will get on this team in this series due to the fact that they've dropped the first 2 games. So taking a little risk here, but we're looking at Cincinnati on the money line. Total sitting at 11 runs. Now, I think that this is obviously a spot where I've said it multiple times now. I think the Cincinnati offense bounces back, right? Which you think, okay, well then that's going to obviously be an over because Washington's offense has actually been scoring well in this series. 6 runs and then 7 runs. But I think that they're just going to flip sides here today. I think that this is going to be like a 6-3 game, so high-ish scoring, but I think that the team's flip side, so I'm still going to lean towards the under here, even though I'm telling you guys, I do think Cincinnati's bats get a little bit hotter than they have been today. All right, we have Detroit taking on Tampa Bay here. Tough one yesterday for Tampa Bay. We had that as a final play. They end up losing 4-2, which, again, is tough to see. Manning on the mound for the Tigers. He got a 4.5 ERA, a 3-3 record this season, but the whip is decent, 1.11 here, going up against Tyler Glasnow, who we obviously know is a good pitcher. He's got a 5-3 record with a 3.15 ERA and a 1.08 whip. I'm going to take the Rays here in a spot in which I do like their odds for run line here, -1.5 for -110. I think that's totally fair. And if you've noticed in their last few games here, when they do lose, regardless of who they lose to, the Rays seem to bounce back in a decent way. And I am a believer that this Rays team is right on the cusp of being back to 90% of what they were towards the beginning of the year. I think they're getting there. So give me them in a big bounce back win spot today. And then in terms of the total, 8 is still a little low for me. Yes, yesterday's was 8.5, and they kept it under that one by a mile. Finished 4-2. I think today this one goes up and over that 8 runs, not because of the pitching necessarily, but I do think that this Rays offense, again, when they have sort of a dormant game, they do bounce back in a big way. Most notably, they lose to the Yankees and they score 8 runs in game 1 of this Detroit series. They lost to Houston 17-4. They scored 8 runs in the following game. I do think that this team takes losses pretty harshly and bounces back. All right, Brewers taking on Pittsburgh, and I'll tell you right away, I just don't love the odds here, no kidding. -200 for the Brewers. I do think that they're probably going to win this game. I like Woodruff on the mound for them. They've won his 5 last starts, only 2 of those obviously coming this season, but 2-0 this season in his last 5 years, including last season. I kind of want to include that, obviously. He's got a 0.8 ERA. It's even better. It's a 0.5 ERA, if I'm not mistaken, this season. So the guy is pitching well. He's going to give you about a 5 2/3 on average as well. Going up against Oviedo, who just is fairly inconsistent. He has a couple good starts as of late, but they're against teams that just didn't seem like they wanted to score the ball, score runs. So I do think that there is a level of, okay, well, his stats are going to look inflated. I do think that it's just a Milwaukee game all day long. Again, they're going to take 3 or 4 against Pittsburgh team. They're just a little bit better than them. Do I end up making a final play? Similar to yesterday, the odds and the pricing in this game doesn't entice me almost whatsoever, so I'm probably sticking away from it, but I do think that Milwaukee gets the win. They could be some sort of a parlay throw-in. They're just batting well and pitching better than Pittsburgh over these last few games or so. Let's say 5 to 7 games. They've just been a way better team. And by the way, for the total there, the total sitting at 8, I really have no clue where that one's going to land. We've seen a 14-1 game, an 8-4 game, and then a 3-2 game in this series, all kind of all over the place for me. If anything, I guess I would say that I slightly lean towards the over just because we've seen some high numbers on the final box score here for these two teams in multiple series that they've played in, but I don't think that becomes a final play either. All right, Minnesota taking on Arizona. We had the under in this game, and honestly, Arizona did their job from a scoring perspective, right? But Minnesota goes out there and scores 12 runs. They blew it. I did like the spot. I do like it again today. We're looking at 8.5 with 2 good pitchers on the mound. I will say this, Dallas Keuchel is going for Minnesota. When's the last time that guy pitched, right? Coming back now. So kind of excited for that. But I like Zach Gallen. He has not pitched well as of late, but I expect him to be able to clean up here against a Twins team that has struggled offensively. Now, they scored 12 runs yesterday, but that kind of tells me it's like, okay, well, you're not going to score 12 runs again, right? But I do do like the under still as my main lean here, because as good as I think, as good as I think Zach Gallen can be, Arizona is struggling against lefties. So unless, Keuchel comes out there and it's like, whoa, this is baseball, right? And gets batted around, I do think that we have a decent spot here for an under to take place. 8.5, yes, it got killed, but we have seen already, in this series, a very low scoring game. I expect that to be more of the trend that we're seeing. So give me under 8.5. And again, in terms of a money line, I look at Arizona, but it's a lot of juice to be paying at -156, and Zach Gallen hasn't trended in the exact right direction, but I still like him in this spot over Keuchel. But again, main lean is going to be the under. All right, next up, St. Louis taking on Colorado again, a series in which I don't really love. I guess we can still kind of take a peek at the under here. Yesterday was 9, it finished at 8. Thompson on the mound for St. Louis, who hasn't started this year. And on the mound for Colorado is Austin Gomber, who actually surprisingly has been decent in his last few starts. He's given you 6 innings pretty much regularly, right, and religiously. So he's getting a pitch deep into the game no matter what. And he's only allowed, 0 to 3 runs on average here. ERA would be 2 flat in his last few starts here. So credit to him. Again, -200 makes me not really like this spot at all. So maybe I just lean towards the Rockies. Maybe. Bueller, right? Like, I don't love this spot whatsoever, but I can't really consider looking at the Cardinals here, -200. They already lost 1 game in this series, so give me the Rockies for whatever it's worth. +168 right now on the money line. I do think Gomber's pitching well. It's not like the St. Louis team crushes lefties. They do hit lefties fairly well, just giving you guys that context. But yeah, don't really love this spot. Total is 9. Again, I'm going to look at the under, but I'd be surprised if anything makes it into the final play, which I get a couple comments being like, why do you even bother talking about the game if you're just going to be like, I don't really know? It's because I like to break down each and every game. That is the schedule of the show, like whether I like the game or not, I'm going to tell you guys if I do, if that makes sense. So we're not just going to like randomly pick games and just pick them if I do like them. I'll tell you guys my thoughts and sort of analysis / breakdown on the game, right? But it will be sort of a transparent, and I'll keep it fully transparent of like, am I considering this for a final play or that type of thing? No, because what will happen is we do all of our research, then we record, and I kind of regurgitate all of that research, right? And sort of, at least to my best of my ability, break down the game, and then I'll go in and dig even deeper into what I want to make final plays. But I know if there's a series or a game that I really don't want to even waste the time and put much effort into if I don't find the edge. So not to go on another little rant, but guys, if you watch that, go ahead and comment 17. It means you made it this far into the video, right around the 17-minute mark. But there's little ranty Ev coming out. But yeah, guys, that's just how we do it on the show. I like to go through each game, whether I love it or hate it. I'm going to talk about it. All right, we got the Cubs taking on the Braves here. Cubs taking yesterday 8-6, which Atlanta won yesterday or the day before 8-0. So we have a split so far. So who is going to take the series? Morton on the mound for Atlanta over his last 5 games, pitching decently. He's had a couple starts within there where he has to get pulled early and whatnot, but he's still got a 2.4 ERA over his last 5 with a couple rocky starts in there. Going up against Justin Steele, who has been fairly consistent all year, but had a tough outing against Cincinnati his last start. Now, I think a lot of people would be talking about this had it not been for that being the Cubs' 20-run game. So, he let up 4 runs through 6 innings, not really like he normally would, right? But no one really cares or talks about it because they scored 20 runs, so no one cares about, how many, if he let up a bunch of runs or not. But nonetheless, I do think that this is a bounce back spot for Atlanta. It looks like 96% of the money is on the Cubs, though, so worries me a little bit to be kind of fading sharps like that, but I'm still going to go with Atlanta. The public is on Atlanta, and the money's on the Cubs, so usually you'd look at that discrepancy and ride with the money. I have a feeling here today that this Atlanta team bounces back with Morton on the mound. Like I said, has pitched well, and against the Cubs here, he actually has some decent numbers. His last start against the Cubs was about a year ago, so yes, long time, and he pitched 7 innings of 0 earned runs. So don't hate seeing that, right? And then you have the total sitting at 8.5 right now. We just haven't seen a game in which it paced towards the under from the Cubs in like forever, right? And then Atlanta, that they're going to be able to score a bunch of runs. So whether I believe in the pitching or not today, I do think you got to trust the offenses to some degree. Give me the over 8.5. All right, Texas taking on the Mariners here, Miami Marlins here. I do think that I have a lean that honestly, this has a very good chance of being a final play, and it's going to be the over here. Now, we do have Sandy Alcantara on the mound for Miami, which, give him his flowers, he has pitched well as of late, and that is, kind of shocking because he really hasn't had all that good of a season, but over his last 5 here, he has a 1.6 ERA. He's pitching deep in the games, averaging 7 innings pitched here over his last 5. Going up against Andrew Haney today, who has also been pitching okay over over his last 5, so I'm kind of fading the fact that these are two good pitchers, okay? But what I like is the fact that both of these offenses look like they're starting to kind of kick it into gear. Miami, not like so much. I don't want to ignore the fact they have multiple 2-run games or anything like that, but Haney is a lefty, and Miami on the season, it just gets better and better, right? On the season, actually batting over 300 against lefties on the year. If you look at it from their last 10, batting 317, and then their last 5 batting 330. So they hit for average against lefties, no matter if you want to look at a small sample size, their last 10 games, or if you want to look at it on the season. And then we know Texas is obviously a powerhouse of an offense on the season, batting almost 270 against righties, batting 298 over the last 5 against righties here. So give me the over in this game. It's probably got the strongest chance of being a final play out of any of this. I wanted to lean towards Texas, but Alcantara is dealing, man. So I guess I'm gonna, fringe lean towards Texas and so just kind of trusting the offense. But my main lean here is going to be on the over 8.5. All right, Angels taking on the Mariners. Mariners have won 3 straight against the Angels here. Obviously, we've talked about it in game number 1 of this series too. I do just think that they are the better team, and I think they're going to continue to be the better team too. Even their records are kind of pulling away from each other right now. You have Bryce Miller on the mound for Seattle, who, barring his last 2 starts, he looked like he might as well try and kick the ball towards home plate, right? But he had a decent season going before that, so I'm willing to forgive and forget to some degree. He's a 4 flat ERA with a 1.04 whip on the season. Not terrible, right? In his last 3 starts, a 7.3 ERA with a 1.32 whip. Not all that great, right? But I'm still going to back the Mariners today. I think the offense is better. He's going up against Chase Silthes. I can't say it. Chase Silseth on the mound for the Angels, who he's going to give you, I would say maybe 3-4 innings, right? Not really a guy that's going to go deep into games. Has been pitching well this season, but nonetheless, I'm not really trusting it. I'm going to look at those Mariners bats to continue to be a little bit better than the Angels here. They're just the better team now. Probably the biggest piece of why this may not be a final play is the fact that we look at Seattle now winning 4 straight against the Angels, which is possible. We just saw the Angels, lose, what was it, the last 2 against Atlanta, so they've already lost 5 straight. What's one more? But it is kind of like, okay, well, if they're going to win one, it's just going to be sort of the getaway win, right? The getaway game here. For Seattle. So they return home, I believe, and play San Diego. So this is the last of their mini home, road trip. So if they want to go out there and sleepwalk through it, it's probably going to kill the Seattle pick. But nonetheless, that's the only reason I can convince myself to maybe stick away from it. But it's Seattle or pass. And also over 9.5. I don't hate that in that game either. All right, Oakland taking on San Francisco, and I actually do have a lean in this game today that I actually could, come to terms with here. Obviously, this isn't the sexiest of matchups here, but I do like the under 9 runs in this game. Now, it's 8 on most sports books. If you can get it at 9, I still like it at 8. I actually haven't even seen an 8.5, which is kind of weird, so we're probably going to lose that 9 over in Bet River and win right now pretty quickly. But I will say that even 8, I do like the under here. We've seen a 1-2 game so far in this series, and you have 2 pitchers who, yes, I'm actually gonna give a pitcher on the A's credit here, which is Luis Medina. He's got a 2.2 ERA over his last 5 here. He's giving you 5 innings pitched, which is all you can really ask for. Obviously, either one of these bullpens comes in, and there is a chance of what's going on. The San Francisco bullpen I definitely trust, especially as of late. But obviously, there's no holds barred when you look at the A's coming in here. But I don't think either offense is really cooking or firing on all cylinders right now. We've seen San Francisco, their last run total here, they haven't gone over 4 runs except for 1 game in their last 10. Just so happens it was against Oakland, so we're just going to ignore that for a second. But their other run totals here, barring that 8, right, was 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 4, 1, 1. And then Oakland, obviously you can look at them and be like, yeah, there's an offensive hysteria, right? So give me the under 8 as my main lean in this one. And then, if you want to get dicey on the side here, maybe look at Oakland. They won yesterday. Doesn't seem like San Francisco is like all that engaged and offensively speaking. So, I don't really love that play. But if you do need a side, I'm actually not going to consider San Francisco on the road after a loss. And they have to go to play the Angels, I believe, after this too, right? So they're staying up there. But either way, give me the A's on the money line as a slight lean. But I do really consider the under 8 in this one. If you can get it at 9, get it. I doubt those will be up there for that long by the time this is posted. All right, Padres taking on the Dodgers. Padres bounced back yesterday after getting mollywopped in game 1 of the series. They win yesterday 8-3 there. I wish we did kind of roll with that as a final play. I know I talked about I wanted to back to Tony Snell. If you know, you know, but I did want to back Blake Snell in that spot. We ended up not making it a final play. Would have liked it because we were that close. Would have been a win. But today on the mound for San Diego is going to be Rich Hill, who obviously has not pitched for the Padres yet, going up against Lance Lynn here. I think the main play in this one's going to be give me a double-digit game. Give me the over. In terms of what I'm looking at from a team perspective, I would lean towards the Dodgers at -120, but I don't really know what you're going to get out of either one of these pitchers, and they are playing facing a lefty who the Dodgers just started to hit lefties well. On the season, they're only averaging about 230 against lefties. In their last 10, they're right over 300, which is impressive, but that is more of a small sample size, right? So hopefully the bats stay hot because that'll help our over as well. But I like the Dodgers on the money line too. So keep an eye on the pinned comment, guys, to see what we end up rolling with for all of our final plays. That is going to wrap it up for today's video. This thing is burning. I got to go put something on it, right? But nonetheless, I will catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.